Hello, fellow truth seekers. This is Doug coming to you once again on this here Shabbat. Hope all you folks had a good week and you've been blessed. I want to start out by saying fair use. For educational purposes, I'm using stuff that I pulled off of Wikipedia, some stuff that is copyrighted by David Hebert, 2009. But it says at the top, the need for teaching the eschatological gospel of both comings of Jesus Christ in the 21st century. So, he's given permission to use this because this is for the teaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ, or Yahushua. And what I'm going to be discussing today, and I've talked about this subject before, but I've got some more stuff here that I want to go through to back up what I say. In other words, as they say, I got the receipts. But I want to establish something here right off the bat because I think it's really important to use the scriptures. Something like coming in there, yeah, that's a little better. To establish who is who and from what bloodlines they come from. Okay, now I'm going to start here in Genesis chapter 10. Now these, at verse 1, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. And the sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, who Gomer was a son of Japheth, let's get that in there established. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, and after their families in their nations. Because this is the table of nations. This is after Babel, when the languages get confounded and all that kind of stuff, or during that time. All right, now we're going to look at the lineage of Shem, okay, who was Japheth's brother. So this is unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. All right, now, the son, we're going to establish the son of Shem, Arphaxad. Okay? All right, it says, these are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begot Arphaxad 500 years and begot sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begot Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begot Salah. Now this is Genesis chapter 11, starting at verse 10. All right, and I'm on verse 13. And he begot Salah and after he begot Salah 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years and begot Eber. And Salah lived after he begot Eber 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and begot Peleg. And Eber lived after he begot Peleg 430 years and begot sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begot Reu. And Peleg lived after he begot Reu 209 years and begot sons and daughters. And Reu lived 230 years and begot Serug. And Reu lived after he begot Serug 207 years and begot sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begot Nahor. And Serug lived after he begot Nahor 200 years and begot sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and begot Terah. And Nahor lived after he begot Terah 119 years and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. All right, Abram become Abraham. And Abraham is the father of the Hebrew people, of which Judah was one of the descendants. You know, you had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob had 12 children. One of his children was Judah, which is where we get the word Jew from. That's where the word Jew comes from. It's a slang term that was, I think the first mention of it's like in Malachi or somewhere in the Old Testament, which, you know, was right before the New Testament era. Okay, so we've got it established here who Abraham is and what bloodline he came from. He come from the bloodline of Shem through Shem's son Arphaxad. Okay, we also established who the Ashkenaz are. That they come from the bloodline of Japheth, and Arphaxad was the son of Gomer, I think. Let's see, let me go back here. I don't want to tell you wrong. Yeah, he was the son of Gomer. All right. Two totally different bloodlines. All right. Now what I want to show you here is, and this is concerning the Rothschilds. Okay, and this is where I got it from. It's Wikipedia. The Rothschild, you can see Rothschild family. All right. Now, it says the Rothschild family is a wealthy Ashkenazi Jewish family. Jewish noble banking family, originally from Frankfurt, that rose to prominence with Mayor Amschel Rothschild from 1744 to 1812, a court factor to the German landgraves of Hesse Kassel in the free city of Frankfurt, Holy Roman Empire, who established his banking business in the 1760s. Now, what I want to read here to you is, and this is somebody that's making this comment. This is Niles Weekly Register, volume 49, had the following to say about the Rothschilds' influence on international high finance in 1836. Now this is in 1836. Now listen to what this guy's saying about the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are the wonders of modern banking. We see the descendants of Judah. Hey, listen, they're already telling you a lie here, because they're not descended from Judah. The Ashkenazis are not descended from Judah. They're descended from Japheth. Okay? After a persecution of 2,000 years, peering above kings, rising higher than emperors, and holding a whole continent in the hollow of their hands, the Rothschilds govern a Christian world. Not a cabinet moves without their advice. They stretch their hand with equal ease from St. Petersburg to Vienna, from Vienna to Paris, from Paris to London, and from London to Washington. Baron Rothschild, the head of the house, is the true king of Judah. You hear that? The prince of the captivity, the Messiah so long looked for by this extraordinary people. He holds the keys of peace or war, blessing or cursing. They are the brokers and counselors of the kings of Europe and of the Republican chiefs of America. What more can they desire? Now, this is what they're saying about these people. But yet, this guy, doesn't have enough sense to know that they're not from Judah. And you can find the lineage from Abraham down to Judah. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I mean, it's easy enough to find that lineage in the Old Testament, in Genesis, same book I just read from. Also, you can find in Matthew and in Mark 2 different lineages back to David for the Messiah. One is through Joseph, back to Solomon. The other is through Mary, back to one of Solomon's brothers. But they both are descended from David. And so, and of course, David, you can find his lineage back to Judah. Going back through Obed and Ruth and Boaz and on back. So I wanted to establish that of who these people really come from. They do not come from Judah, but they have deceived a lot of the people from Judah. Because they do not accept Hamashiach, Yahushua, as the Messiah. They're looking for a Messiah. And even Messiah said, I come in my Father's name, and you won't receive me, but one will come in his own name, him you will receive. And I believe that, and it even tells you, I run out of paper on my printer, so I couldn't print out this whole thing because it was like 34 pages. But it says here, another essential part of the Mayor Rothschild's strategy for success was to keep control of their banks in family hands, allowing them to maintain full secrecy about the size of their fortunes. In about 1906, the Jewish Encyclopedia noted the practice initiated by the Rothschilds of having several brothers of a firm established branches in the different financial, having to establish firm established branches in the different financial centers was followed by other Jewish financiers. These people that also probably Ashkenaz, people like the Bischofsheims, the Pierres, Seligmans, Lazards, and others. And these financiers, by their integrity and financial skill, obtained credit not alone with their Jewish confreries, but with the banking fraternity in general. By this means, Jewish financiers obtained an increasing share of international finance during the middle and last quarter of the 19th century. The head of the whole group was the Rothschild family. It also says, of more recent years, non-Jewish financiers have learned the same cosmopolitan method, and on the whole, the control is now rather less than more in Jewish hands than formerly. Mayor Rothschild successfully kept the fortune in the family with carefully arranged marriages, often between first or second cousins, similar to royal intermarriage. By the late 19th century, however, almost all Rothschilds had started to marry outside the family, usually into the aristocracy or other financial dynasties. And so, the one of the things they did when they come into the United States trying to get control of the banking system here was, the Morgans, J.P. Morgan and the Rockefellers, they got intermarried in with them. And that's why I like Jeff Zuckerberg, he's a Rothschild. And several others of these, Larry Dillard or Larry Fink of the state of BlackRock, he's also in with them. I'm pretty sure if you looked at it, dug in it deep enough, you find somewhere that they're interrelated. And the same with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. And I would say if you go to any of them, Bank of America, Citibank in New York, and other large, Goldman Sachs, they're all married in with each other. And they're even telling you that here. I mean, and if Wikipedia is putting it out, it's the approved narrative. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on here. It's the approved narrative that the Rothschilds approve of. And so I just wanted to bring this out. And I wanted to also, again, I've talked about this before. And of course, the Rothschilds funded this fella right here and actually encouraged him to form the Illuminati over in Germany. Where was this at over here? Where were they from? Over in Frankfurt, Germany. And Adam Weishaupt, he was from Ingolstadt, Bavaria. And Holy Roman Empire. And here it's on they were court factor to the German Landgraves of Hesse Kassel in the Free City of Frankfurt, Holy Roman Empire. You're starting to see a connection here. And of course, certain people over there in Germany, the man who was because back then Germany was fractured. It was a lot of, little different little empires or whatever. They wasn't, it wasn't a united Germany. There was a bunch of different little, there was Sachsen, and there was, Bavaria, and then there was Baden, and all these other, there was, at one point, there was hundreds of these little enclaves all over what is now Germany. And by the time of the German Empire, they had been consolidated. But this is even before the German Empire, which was a little bit later. But anyway, the Weishaupt, he was a Jesuit. He was also a Freemason. And so and I've read this letter, and of course this is this is from Academia Edu. I printed it off, and again, fair use, because they're an academic institution, and I'm using this for teaching. It says the following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. And that was what they accused Adam Weishaupt of over there in Germany. I think it was the in Bavaria there, they ran him out and not only did they run him out, but they caused him to lose his job. He was a professor. Let's see if I can find it here. So Weishaupt was initiated into the Masonic Lodge Theodor zum Gutenroth at Munich in 1777. Here it is. Weishaupt's radical rationalism and vocabulary were not likely to succeed. Writings that were intercepted in 1784 were interpreted as seditious, and the society was banned by the government of Karl Theodor, Elector of Bavaria. And that was in 1784. And Weishaupt lost his position at the University of Ingolstadt and fled Bavaria. Now, this is the other thing you need to see here too, is that he established this Illuminati was established on 1st of May, 1776. Boy, there's a lot of stuff happening in that period of time, wasn't it? The French Revolution, the American Revolution, a lot of changes. And these people were behind it. They did want to overthrow governments and bring them into the fold of their doctrine, the Luciferian doctrine. That's what it is, or the satanic doctrine. But here, now, this Pike letter to Giuseppe Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London until 1977. And the thing is there's people that, probably scholars and different ones that went over there to see the letter, people that were historians, people who studied the Civil War here in America. They wanted to see stuff that was written by people that were former generals and military leaders and stuff. These people collect that stuff. Well, I'm pretty sure that there was people that took pictures of this letter. So I'd say it probably does exist. How else would anybody know? Somebody could have made this up, but I really just don't think they did. I think it did exist, and that once people realized what it was, the people that are the people in power, once people began to read it and understood what it was actually talking about, they were like, this is just, don't make no sense or whatever. But then somebody did realize that, this does make sense. And when you look at what they're calling out to do in this letter, and these things happen, like the First World War and the Second World War, then you begin to kind of say, hey man, maybe this is true. Maybe they did plan this out. And I told you like last week, it's generational. They don't just stop when a generation dies. This stuff is ingrained into their children, and other people are brought on board. That's why, they when they came over here, the Freemasons were already here in America at that time. They had come over here from the Grand Lodge in England and established lodges here in the 1730s. And I talked about that, how they come here with the sole intent of doing away with Christianity and Christian belief. They were wanting to get rid of the Puritans. And for the most part, they did. And they would, put people, have people to infiltrate the Puritans and do stuff like the Salem witch hunts and stuff like that. That was not the true Puritans. That was a group within there that were in there for that sole purpose, to stir up trouble and to do these things, to discredit the Puritans, to sully their name. And so they succeeded. And they succeeded in taking over Yale and Harvard and Princeton and all these other colleges that had been established as Bible colleges, or religious colleges. Okay, now it says Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader of the mid-1800s, as well as the director of the Illuminati. Now, at this time in the early 1800s, which is not that far after, he basically took over from Weishaupt. And what they had done is they went underground. They, because they had been run out of Germany, then they quit using the name Illuminati, and they went underground, and they had spies and counter spies and stuff like that all over. And they, when you read that letter or the bio of Adam Weishaupt there, it says that they was elite, people from all over Europe that had become part of it. That was the idea, was to get the people that can actually move and shake, that can get things changed, laws and, schools and religions and the political and economic stuff that can actually affect it. You don't need, people say, oh man, how could they do this? Well, you don't need that many people. It's not like, it's a fraternity, and a secret society. And so these people swear allegiance. Now, there has been people that come out and expose what's going on in there, but most of the time they control the media. So they control the media and they can destroy somebody. I mean, they can destroy you in the media, and if that doesn't work, then they will kill you. I mean, or threaten you, or threaten to kill your family and stuff like that. I mean, these people, they're, a lot of them are Jesuits and stuff, assassins. That's what they are. Okay, now Albert Pike, a historical Masonic figure. I mean, it's well established that Albert Pike was a Mason, was a 33rd degree Freemason, occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the Southern jurisdiction of Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Okay, the following are apparently extracts from the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. Again, it's a generational thing. And they're in league with other secret societies. The Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar, the OTO, and I'm going to show you all the connections here in a minute. I've got the documentation for that. And this is quite a bit. It's about 14 pages, but you need to have it to see all the connections between these organizations and people involved in it that you wouldn't have known that were involved in it. I mean, the Balfour Declaration over there, Lord Balfour. Because I just got to telling you about how powerful that the Rothschilds were and how they looked at them over there in Europe. Like they were gods or something. The most powerful people in the world. And still are. But they're behind the scenes. They're the ones that are pulling the strings to the puppets. And they got like-minded people that work with them. That's what the Freemasons does. You see, is in the Illuminati, these secret societies, what they do, and I've talked about this too, about the Porch Masons. These are people that just want to belong somewhere, be a part of an organization, even though they should understand whenever they go into the first degree what they are stepping into, that it ain't good. By the ritual that they have to do and the oath they have to take. They should understand right off that they're into something that they shouldn't be in. But a lot of these people don't, because they just want to belong somewhere. Well, these folks, most of the time, they never make it past the 3rd degree or something like that, because it gets progressively more complicated as you go up through it. And a lot of it's in Greek and all this kind of stuff. But the ones who do go through all the degrees and they make it up to the 33rd degree when they reveal what they really are, that they are Satanists or Luciferians or whatever you want to call them, then those people are of a like mind. That's why they work as hard as they do to make it up through all those degrees, because they want to be a part of it. And so that's how you can get control of a world, ultimately. But it's not something that you can just do overnight. No, it has to be done in steps, incrementally, because it's like boiling the frog. How do you boil a frog? Well, you don't boil a frog by throwing it in a pot of boiling hot water. You put it in a pot of cold water, and then you just gradually raise the temperature. And you'll boil the frog. He won't ever move. But if you throw him in a boiling hot, he'll just jump right back out. So, that's how they do it. They do it a little incrementally, slowly, so that you change the culture, you change the people's way of thinking, and then when you get to the final conclusion of it, which is what the ending of this letter is, and you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then you can understand what I'm saying, is that it says the First World War must be brought about. Now, you got to remember that the Rothschilds and the Tsars of Russia had no love lost. That's why the West and the people under the control of this Rothschild Illuminati cartel hates the Russians so bad, because that's the one place that they have never been able to capture their banking system. They tried in the 1800s, and the Tsar over there absolutely told them that it ain't happening. And, and the Tsar made some remarks that the Rothschild banking family did not like. And they swore that they would get even over it. Well, they did. They caused the Russian Revolution. It says the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsars in Russia, and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Now, it was, all over Eastern Europe, that was what their intention was, to use it for that purpose. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascist and the political Zionist. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Now, what do we see happening? I mean, they're telling you this is what has to happen in order to bring this Third World War. And that's what we see happening over there in the Middle East right now. And it's their agenturs, the Illuminati, that are the ones that get this stuff stirred up and started. And the political Zionists are the Ashkenaz. I mean, that's who they are. I mean, if you read that, it talks about in here about their influence in, which like I said, I didn't print all this out because I was running out of paper, but you'll find that they had a huge influence on financing the Napoleonic Wars, both sides. that they, brought about the establishment of Brazil as an empire, and away from the Kingdom of Portugal, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to weaken these kingdoms. See, they're in their influence and their stretch. So they negotiated to pay Portugal to let Brazil become independent. And same thing, they financed the Japanese-Russian War, Russo-Japanese War. That's what they have done and done and done. For a long time, is they finance both sides and they come out the winner every time. But they also financed the Zionists going into Israel and and brought about the Balfour Declaration, because Lord Balfour, he was British, and he also helped support Britain and the war effort during World War I, and brought about the overthrow of the Ottoman Empire. See, they want to destroy these empires and stuff and bring about these nationalism, these single national countries, because if you break up these big blocks, then you really don't have and you establish the one that you want to be the military industrial powerhouse that's on your side, that's backing you. Well, who would that be? At least right at the moment. That would be the United States, but that doesn't mean that another couldn't arise. A European superpower. I mean, they're over there right now trying to establish a European military, industrial, political complex. It's modeled after the United States, because they're so disconnected between the countries, because the idea of sovereignty runs kind of deep in some of these countries, and they like the idea of having their own military industries, and and a lot of times they're just not compatible. The stuff that the Italians make ain't compatible with what the Spanish make, and the Spanish make stuff that ain't compatible with what the Germans make, and so forth and so on. Well, they want to standardize it to where they all produce the same kind of weapon systems, and build the factories and all that stuff to supply all this stuff. And so, but anyway, you see, their idea is to destroy both the Muslims and the political Zionists. And if in the process they kill off the true Jews, or some of them, all the better for them. And because what they want to really do is they want to destroy all religion other than theirs. The Satanism, Luciferianism, that's, the objective is to destroy political Zionism, Islam, Christianity, and then roll out their religion. It says, meanwhile, now this is after it says, the war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. In other words, they want to promote this war between the Christian West and the nihilist and the atheist. And it says, then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against a world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So, and again, we see the origins of this. Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary. He's also the one that introduced fascism into Italy. And then Albert Pike, of course, and it was a student of, or a protege of Mazzini's that was the one that got elected as a fascist. But anyhow, and he was as well as the director of the Illuminati. So we see where the origin of this is coming from. And of course, this here is, and it's not the beginning of this, it's 3.7.1 Illuminati, 1830 to the present, because it was around before then, but this is their planning. And so it says Illuminati, 1830 to present. This then resumes the Illuminati's plan in the Middle East, started by the Wahhabis in the early 19th century. And by the way, Osama bin Laden was a Wahhabi. He was from Saudi Arabia. The Wahhabis are in Saudi Arabia, and they're a sect of the Sunnis. Started by the Wahhabis in the early 19th century. The following picks up the previous narrative from Livingstone. I wish I had Livingstone's book, because it goes into great detail about this stuff. But it says the movement continued with what was called the Oxford Movement, established in the 1820s under the guise of a missionary venture, but truly under the auspices of Scottish Rite, the Masons. They were acting as if they were missionaries going over there to the Middle East. But it was, but truly under the auspices of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The center of this activity, again, was Egypt, working through the Grand Lodge of the Fatimid Ismailis. This is according to Dreyfus, 1980. The promoters of this endeavor came from the British branch of the Rosicrucians, another secret society. The thrust focused on creating a reform movement within Islam, known as the Salafi. Initially, they were formed to protect the British interest in the Suez Canal. The agent used to promote the Salafi movement was Jamal ud-Din al-Afghani, working with the British intelligence service starting in 1857 and 58. And this is again according to Livingstone, his research, 2007, 161-3. During the period 1858 to 1880, Afghani traveled to the following places and accomplished the following to establish the Salafi reform movement: to India, where he picked up his heretical beliefs in atheism, pantheism, and a philosophy close in nature to the Lurianic Kabbalah. to Afghanistan, where he became the confidential advisor to the ruler, while maintaining relations with the Baha'is, British Freemasons, Sufis, and Nizari Muslims. He's got relations with all of these different groups. It says, then he went to Istanbul, Turkey, entertained by Ali Pasha, Freemason and Grand Vizier, 5 times under 2 different sultans. And in 1871, to Cairo, Egypt. While in Cairo, Afghani formed the Arab Masonic Society, reorganized and exported the Scottish Rite and Grand Orient Lodges of Freemasonry to Syria, Turkey, and Persia, also known as Iran, and made contacts with future leaders and taught them the Gnosticism of the Ismailis. You know, again, I talked about how Gnosticism had its origins there in Alexandria in Egypt, and so, you know, that was coming at that Salafi, or that Gnosticism of the Ismailis, coming out of Egypt. Some of these leaders were the following: Muhammad Abdullah, future leader of the Salafi; Saad Pasha; Zuglu, founder of Wafdi, the Egyptian Nationalist Party. And this is according to Dreyfus, 1980, 122. And James Sanua, an Italian Jew, student of Giuseppe Mazzini, an advisor to the Egyptian royal family, and whose girlfriend's traveling companions was Helena P. Blavatsky, a medium, mystic, and creator of the Theosophical Society in 1875, and whose students later created the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, the Order of Eastern Templars, in the late 1870s, early 1880s, and whose second leader was Aleister Crowley, and the Golden Dawn in 1887. After Afghani left Cairo, his student Muhammad Abda was named the chief editor of the official British-controlled publication of the Egyptian government. Then in 1883, Abda met Afghani in Paris and went to London, where he lectured at Oxford and Cambridge. During this period of time, Abda assisted Afghani by running a French-Arabic journal in Paris, translated Indissoluble Bond in English. Also, the name of a secret organization he founded in 1883, that was the name of this secret society or whatever that he established, called Indissoluble Bond, and traveled primarily to Tunis, Beirut, and Syria, recruiting members for Afghani's Salafi. Dreyfus, and this is according to Dreyfus, 1980. While in London, Abda visited the home and banking office of banking mogul Lord Cromer. In 1892, Abda was named to run the administrative committee for the Al-Azhar Mosque and University, the most prestigious Islamic educational institution and oldest university in the world. And in 1899, Lord Cromer made Abda the Grand Mufti of Egypt. His motive in making Abda the most powerful figure in all of Islam was to change the law forbidding interest banking. In other words, surety, or charging people interest to borrow money, because the Hebrew people, they were forbidden from charging each other interest, surety. And so he got Islam to change it so they could get in there. They wanted to get in there and loan money because the Rothschild banking dynasty controlled the Bank of England. They still do. And so that was his motivation behind it, this Lord Cromer. It says, to change the law forbidding interest banking, which Abda quickly did. Giving British banks free reign in Egypt. Afghani died in 1897. Abda died in 1905. Then Muhammad Rushdie Rida, Freemason, member of the Indissoluble Bond, and leader of the Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia, became the leader of the Salafis and united with the Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia. And this is according to Livingstone, 2007. I guess page 164, line 72. While all this was going on in the Middle East, the true power in Europe was being solidified under the banking families of Egypt or England and Europe, primarily the Rothschilds. The ancient royal Scythian, Khazarian bloodlines of Europe and Armenia were also being consolidated and continued. Sinclair, Stuart, Guelph, and Habsburg, which more recently came through Frederick the Great of Prussia, Karl of Hessen-Kassel, Catherine the Great, Queen Victoria, and Christian IX of Denmark, who was called Europe's father-in-law, and whose children or grandchildren sat on the thrones of Great Britain, Russia, Norway, Greece, Denmark, Belgium, Spain, Romania, and Yugoslavia. And this is again according to Livingstone, 2007, page 152, line 3. The relationship between the bankers, money barons, and the royalty was now cemented to the modern Babylonian mysteries cults of the Order of the Garter, Freemasonry, and the Illuminati. So it's firmly now cemented to these, the royalty and the money barons. All right. The following picks up the previous narrative from the author's research. Talking about, I don't know if it's talking about Livingstone or if it's talking about the author of this paper. In 1832, President Andrew Jackson gave his famous veto message against the renewal of the Central Bank of the United States charter, since its formation was against the Constitution. In its place, he instituted a zero-interest policy of government money and reduced the national debt to zero in 4 years. And this is according to Griffin, 1993, page 184, line 7, I reckon, or paragraph 7. All right, now, and you notice like Trump, he's got all these pictures of him looking at Andrew Jackson's portrait there in the White House, and he's always talking about that Andrew Jackson was somebody that he really greatly admired because of his stance. All right, and it says in 1841, Clinton Roosevelt published his book, The Science of Government Founded on Natural Law. In it, he clearly outlined Weissaupt's doctrine for a one-world government. Adam Weishaupt. The League of the Just, I guess was the name, and proposing eliminating the United States Constitution. Or wait a minute, let me reread that. In 1841, Clinton Roosevelt published his book, The Science of Government Founded on Natural Law. In it, he clearly outlined Weissaupt's doctrine for a one-world government and proposed eliminating the U.S. Constitution. In 1847, Karl Marx, from Weissaupt's The League of the Just, wrote the Communist Manifesto. In other words, he was Karl Marx was influenced by Weishaupt to write the Communist Manifesto. From this document, Fabian socialism was born, and a vehicle was created to help bring about the accomplishment of the Illuminati's goals in all countries. And this is according to Brooks, 1983, page 77, paragraph 8. During the Civil War, President Lincoln established the greenback. Instead of borrowing or bowing to the pressure to establish a central bank again. See, they never give up. They keep on and keep on and keep on. This decision was ultimately the cause of his assassination by John Wilkes Booth, agent of the money barons. And I've said this before, people say, oh, he was a Southern sympathizer or whatever. No, that was just what the narrative was created to throw the light off of who he was really working for. And this is agent of the money barons, as attested to by his granddaughter Izola Forster in her book, This One Mad Act, talking about him killing. And she wrote this in 1937. And this is again according to Griffin, 1993, page 187. And I don't know if this is talking about line 92 or if it's paragraph 92 or what, but anyway, after the Civil War, Albert Pike, a Confederate general, Indian commissioner, head Scottish Rite Mason, Kabbalist, and avowed Satanist, took over the leadership of the Illuminati in America and worked directly with Mazzini in Europe. In 1870, Pike established a super-secret worldwide Masonic rite, the new and reformed Paladine Rite. This rite maintained 3 supreme councils in Charleston, South Carolina, Rome, Italy, and Berlin, Germany, and 23 other councils worldwide. But those were the main ones, the one in Charleston, the one in Rome, and the one in Berlin. Lady Queensborough, in her book, Occult Theocracy, 1933, and that might be the Library of Congress number or whatever, 1933, and then it's got the little dots. What is that? 208-9. So it might be the Library of Congress number or something like that, but recorded a statement made by Pike in a letter dated January 22nd, 1870, saying that the purpose of this new rite was to govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. Historian and Mason Dr. Battelle, pseudonym for Gabriel Antonin Jogan Pages and Charles Hacks, contributed to the book Le Diable en 19 siècles by Leo Taxel, 1896-346, and said of this rite, Palladism is the cult of Satan in the inner shrines of a rite superimposed on all the rites. It is a cult, a religion. Griffin, 1993, 62-8. Now, what they're saying is that when he imposed this new rite on all Freemasonry, the purpose of this new rite was to govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center. So, and the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. See, the only ones that know the direction that it's going is the ones at the very top, the ones that are orchestrating and creating all this. But the average guy down in the Masons, they don't know what's going on. All right, and so And here he's saying, that this is, palladism is the cult of Satan in the inner shrines of a rite superimposed on all the rites. It is a cult, a religion. Also, according to Professor Carroll Quigley in his book Tragedy and Hope, 1966, 130-1, in 1870, John Ruskin started the Fabian Socialist Society from the Roman general Fabius, who made long-range, deliberate strategies and plans for war at Oxford, England. This society espoused a philosophy of elitist rule, of the favored few, even one special single man over all humanity, the Antichrist. Ruskin's most famous student was Cecil Rhodes, the Rhodes Scholars. Emphasis added, Griffin, 1993, 73-5. In 1871, Pike published his Weishauptian doctrine in Morals and Dogma, again, Adam Weishaupt, doctrine in Morals and Dogma of the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree for the Southern District of the United States, and published by its authority. Also, in a letter dated August 15, 1871, Pike gave Mazzini plans for world conquest by 3 world wars to usher in the New World Order. The goals for each of those world wars were as follows. World War I, to enable communism to destroy Tsarism in Russia. World War II, fascist versus political Zionist, Germany versus Britain. And then post-war communism will be in a position to take over governments and weaken religions worldwide in the establishment of the State of Israel. That was one of their goals, was to establish the State of Israel. They did it. And I told you last week there, I read that in Isaiah that Elohim would be the one who would bring his people back. Israel and Judah. He would do it. Okay? And in World War III, political Zionists versus the leaders of the Muslim world, Judaism versus Islam, to destroy each other, bring the entire world into the battle, create chaos, and finally to prepare the way for the New World Order. In 1872, Mazzini died at the age of 66, and Pike became the lone leader of the Illuminati. In 1889, Pike made his last written statement to all Palladian councils, partially quoted here from Queensborough, 1933, 220-1. That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand instructors general, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30 degrees. See, now, what that's telling you is that what they had only been telling to the people who reached the rose to the rank of 33 degrees. Now he's saying you can teach it to the 32nd, 31st, and 30 degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of its initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. And this is Kurban, 1980, 161-4, and Griffin, 1993, 69-71. In 1891, Pike died at the age of 82, and Ruskin and the money barons started a secret organization in England, the Association of Helpers and Round Table Groups, the Round Table. Now you notice how they always try to make these things sound nice, the Association of Helpers and Round Table Groups, like like it's some little church organization that's set up here to help people and have roundtable discussions about the needs of the local people and stuff. And it's nothing further from the truth. I mean, they always do. In our own government, they do the same thing. You know, the Affordable Care Act. And it's nothing further from the truth. Who can afford health insurance? I can't. I can't afford $800, $1,000 a month. So I'm without health care. Or this program they got out now, the Inflation Reduction Act, and all it done is made inflation that much worse. That's how they do this stuff. They always name it something that sounds good, like the Federal Reserve Act. Well, federal, that's the government. No, no. All right, and so... And this roundtable, headed by Alfred Milner, and included such well-known Masons as Rudyard Kipling, Arthur Balfour, you know, the one that wrote up the Balfour Declaration, Lord Nathaniel Rothschild, Watch Unto Prayer, the Rhodes Milner Roundtable. Around the same time, Cecil Rhodes, with the help of the Rothschilds, established the Rhodes Scholarship to perpetuate the Illuminist doctrine at the university level. And I can name one right off my head that is famously a Rhodes Scholar, Bill Clinton. And there's others. But, I mean, just like the World Economic Forum young leaders, you know, people like Macron of France, Trudeau up in Canada, and others, political leaders that were, you know, given their instructions through the World Economic Forum, a non-elected group of elitists that are steering this same thing this is talking about here. And it was to perpetuate the Illuminist doctrine at the university level. See, they take these people and they take them there to over, I think it's at Cambridge where the Rhodes Scholarships are, and they indoctrinate them with this. And these are not just political leaders, but they're educators and stuff that are going back to universities and putting this Illuminati doctrine into practice. And this was by Quigley, 1966, 130-1, and Livingstone, 2007, 158. The following paragraph is inserted from Livingstone's narrative. The following is gleaned according to Myron Fagan in 2000 and Barry Kamish in 2003. During the 1890s, the money barons infiltrated America's banking families by intermarrying, and I just said that a while ago, and moving across the Atlantic Ocean. Jacob Schiff, the Warburgs, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan. As an agent of the Rothschilds, Schiff financed the Standard Oil Company for Rockefeller, the railroad empire of Edward R. Harriman, and the steel empire of Carnegie. And through Schiff and John Jacob Astor, Rockefeller was to gain control of the entire American oil industry, and he did, until they broke up the monopolies. And this is according to Livingstone, 2007, 158-9. Also, due to the concern that the Illuminati were becoming too well known, attention was deflected to a small Jewish revolutionary movement in Russia, calling it a Jewish conspiracy. You see how they do that? It is whenever people begin to expose them, what they're up to and what they've been doing, then they will do something to draw your attention away to somebody else and blame them, say that they're the ones doing it, and calling it a Jewish conspiracy. Between 1897 and 1901, the sevenfold Illuminati master plan was further developed in much more detail by the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. The men who conceived the diabolical conspiracy as laid out in the protocols were not atheists. They were members of the Illuminati, followers of the original light bearer, Satan, the devil. They are worshipers of Satan. This is the plan of Satan. See, they're implementing Satan's plan. Satan is the one that's behind it, planning it, and they are the ones that are implementing it. Because he reveals these things to them, through these mediums and seances and through their rituals and all that kind of stuff. That's how he reveals his plan to them about what he wants to do. Just like the Father reveals his plan to us through his word. But it ain't done in secret. This word is in the open. That's why that's coming too. They got to get rid of it. Oh, they'll have some kind of Bible. I mean, we've already seen some of this stuff coming out, these Bibles that are acceptable. This one is not, because it tells the truth. And so we're going to see him coming out and attack. And of course, this statement is by Griffin from 1993 to 2006 or 206-7. They try to act like, these people try to act like they're atheists and they don't believe anything, but really they're practicing Satanists. All right. In 1904, Rockefeller's letter to his newly formed General Education Board. You'd be surprised at what Rockefeller accomplished with pharmaceuticals, with the education system. I mean, unbelievable. Through this General Education Board, it was the General Indoctrination Board is what it really is, to indoctrinate people into Satanism. And then look around the world, look at what's going on at Paris Olympics and all that stuff, and everywhere else. It did, the Emmy Awards and the Oscars and all of these award ceremonies and all this kind of stuff. It's all Satanist. All right. It says in 1904, Rockefeller's letter to his newly formed General Education Board outlined a luminous doctrine for education. Subsequently, the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundations and Trusts were established to control teachers' colleges. And see, that's what a lot of people don't understand is that these people that are part of this Illuminati, Rockefellers, Carnegie, Ford, Hearst, I mean, you go on and on and on and on and on, so that their money cannot be squandered off by their children or whatever, or seized up or anything like that by the government. What they do is they create these charitable trusts. They put their money in there, and they'll leave money to their children and all that, and hopefully that to them, hopefully they'll have one of their children that will be able to carry the torch, continue to carry the torch. But if not, their money will still be being used to further their cause. So they create these trusts. Were established to control teachers' colleges. Because if you control teachers where they teach teachers, and then you put in place your doctrine, then it gets taught to your children and your children's children and so forth and so on. Okay? In 1913, Colonel House published his book, Philip Drew, Administrator, which addressed the man behind the man concept of ruling America through a puppet president, Woodrow Wilson. His plan included the following: establishing a League of Nations, forerunner to the United Nations, a central bank, a graduated national income tax, creation of a central intelligence agency, and moving America's republic form of government toward a socialistic form of government. And I've talked about the CIA, that they are a standalone Illuminati organization. They are not under the control of any other department in the government. And the national income tax is unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. And central bank, Woodrow Wilson brought about all this stuff, and of course, or got it started, and he was a puppet. I mean, it's telling you right there, he was a puppet. And this is House published this in 1926, Volume 1, 114. Also in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, reestablishing the central bank in America and establishing the Federal Reserve banking system, a private corporation controlled by foreign bankers. This is according to Griffin, 1993, 77, 85-88, 192-4. Then came World War I, the war to end all wars, which was part of the Mazzini-Pike Plan. The money barons funded all sides of war. They funded all sides of war. All right. In early 1917, Trotsky toured America and Canada raising money for the Bolshevik Revolution, which later occurred on May 1st, 1917. Now, something must be about this May 1st date, because, like I said, this here Weishaupt established the Illuminati on May 1st, 1776. And then here you have this Russian Revolution that happened on May 1st, 1917. So there's something about that time of the year, or on that time, when, I guess it's when things that, and it says in honor, right here it says in honor of the May 1st, 1776 founding of the Illuminati. Coffee, drinking it out of a mason jar. But you see how they have all these significant dates and stuff. When you begin to really start diving into this stuff, you find out that there's all these dates and all that kind of correspond to other things. And it's funny how this actually happened just the way that letter to Pike. And from where I read back there, where that woman, she wrote that book back in 1933, she was talking about that. So even if that letter didn't exist over there in the museum in London, there had to be something to it, because she was writing about it in 1933. About this plot. All right, well, they brought about this Bolshevik Revolution. They created the concept of communism, socialism. We read about that with Karl Marx, that he took his cue from the writings of Weishaupt. All right, and it says, in early 1917, Trotsky toured America and Canada raising money for the Bolshevik Revolution, which later occurred on May 1st, 1917, in honor of the May 1st, 1776 founding of the Illuminati. World War I ended on November the 11th, 1918, with the armistice being signed. Now listen to that now. 9/11. November 11th, 1918. November 11th, 2002 or 2001 or whatever. You see, they they make these things happen on these dates. And there's got to be some reason behind it, some kind of a spiritual reason behind it. Or they're sending a signal to somebody. But it has some kind of a meaning to it, the reason that these things happen on these dates, these recurring dates. World War I ended on November 11, 1918, with the armistice being signed. In 1919, the unstable League of Nations was formed in Geneva, Switzerland, and Rockefeller funded John Dewey's founding of the Progressive Education Association, Progressive, which proclaimed a secular, humanist, socialist agenda on education. And this is according to Griffin, 1993, 89-92, and 79. Again, the following paragraph is inserted as part of Livingston's narrative. Okay, this paragraph here. Also, as a result of the end of World War I, the Ottoman Empire fell apart and Turkey became a republic, with Ataturk as its first president. And due to the cooperation of the Wahhabis and the Salafis, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was created. Under British sanction in 1932. In 1936, the Saudis granted oil concessions to SoCal, which was the Standard Oil of California, Texaco, Texas Oil Company, Standard of New Jersey, and Saucony Vacuum, or the Standard Oil Company of New York, Vacuum, predecessors of ExxonMobil, BP, or British Petroleum, Royal Dutch Shell, and Gulf Oil collectively. These oil companies became known as the Seven Sisters, which controlled the price of oil around the world. Livingstone, 2007, 178, 180-82. And of course, the Rothschilds own Royal Dutch Shell outright. And the truth's known, they probably own all these other ones too. During the period 1919 to 1927, the Council on Foreign Relations was established in America in 1921 for control of politics, business, press, media, education, and money. And this is Quigley, 1966, 132-5, Griffin, 1993, 130, and Livingstone, 2007, 178. They all three of these are saying the same thing in their writings. Also during this period, Lenin took over for Mazzini as the Illuminati's global revolutionary. He then outlined a plan for the communist takeover of the world. Take over Eastern Europe, then Asia, and then encircle America, of which he stated, "We will not attack. It will fall like an overripe fruit into our hands." Griffin, 1993, 101. And if you look at what's happening here now, I mean, we are falling, and we had the fall of the Berlin Wall and all that stuff, but I think a lot of that stuff was just to open people up, open up the rest of the West to the influence of the East. The only one that's still the enemy is Russia, but I think that comes down to the fact that they still don't have control of their money. They want their money. They want to control their money, because whoever controls money, I think it was Mayor Amschel Rothschild that said, "I care not who runs the government so long as I control the money." All right. And I mean that's the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. And if you look, all of these political people. I mean, Joe Biden was there. They were interviewing, or while he was at one of these meetings of the Council on Foreign Relations, he sat there and was talking about how that he told the president of Ukraine when they was one of their district attorneys, or the equivalent of a district attorney over there, was investigating and trying, in court, that company, that oil company over there, that Hunter Biden was on the board, and was investigating them and prosecuting them for money laundering and for a whole bunch of other crimes. And Biden told the president of Ukraine, you either get rid of that prosecutor or you will not get the $1 billion that we promised you. And then he said, and he says, well, you're not the president. He says, I'm telling you, you won't get the money. And he looked at his watch and he said, you got 6 hours to make up your mind, and I'm going back. And like 2 hours later, the president of Ukraine called him and said, okay, it's done. He's fired. Now, this is the kind of power that these people exercise. All right. Lenin took over the role of the Illuminati's, and so, but they, and America will, the way it's going, looks like it is going to fall like a ripe fruit without having to be shot fired. All right, here's another insert from Livingstone's narrative. In Germany, the Nazi Party, an occult organization, was created from the combination of the OTO, the Ordero Orientis or whatever, of Crowley, Aleister Crowley, and the Thule Gesellschaft, or the Thule Society, in 1920. As a result of this merger, both the Nazis and the Salafis worked together to form Ismailis-type terrorists, like the anti-fascists. This allegiance became known as the Muslim Brotherhood, founded by Hassan al-Banna, Freemason, student of Afghani, Abdu, and Rita, and the Wahhabis. This is according to Dreyfus, 1980-100. In 1933, Egypt founded its own version of the Hitler Nazis, called Young Egypt. Among its members were two later Egyptian presidents, Gamal Nasser and Anwar Sadat. Now, if you're my age, you know who these people are. They were the leaders of Egypt, presidents. And of course, Sadat was assassinated. The go-between for the Nazis and Banna was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who later was the mentor of Yasser Arafat, head of the PLO, or who was, started Palestinian Liberation Organization. There was no Palestinians until the Jews went over there, who in 1946 fled to Egypt after the defeat of the Nazis, because he was in league with the Nazis. Arafat was. In 1929, America, the money barons engineered the Great Depression. And this is William Bryan, The United States' Unresolved Monetary and Political Problems. The speeches of Congressman Louis T. McFadden. In 1934, gold certificates were removed from America's monetary system, and it became illegal to own personal gold. During the 1930s and 1940s, FDR established the New Deal socialism. inherited from his relative Clinton Roosevelt, which I read about earlier there. It was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that caused the Great Depression, and because of his policies. And it was it's just like now, what they're doing now is to take us another step closer to absolute communism. You own nothing and be happy, according to Klaus Schwab. And in 1941, America was drawn into World War II, Part 2 of the Pike-Mazzini Plan, by the bombing of the naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Again, the money barons funded all sides of war, including Hitler and the Japanese, because we see where they funded them in the Russo-Japanese War. And I guarantee you that it was these people, provocateurs, agents provocateurs of the Illuminati, that provoked the Japanese into bombing the base in Pearl Harbor to draw the United States into World War II. Including Hitler. After World War II, in 1945 at the Yalta Conference, Europe was split up according to Lenin's plan for the spread of communism, and the United Nations was established with an outward goal of world peace and a real goal of establishing the New World Order. That's what their goal is. And it's a secret, the UN is a secret organization. They don't publish anything that they do in there. The only thing they publish is the stuff that they plan on doing to us or implementing. But the back room and the hidden agenda stuff, they do not publish. And this is according to Griffin, 1993, 92-102, and 143-7. The following is another insert from Livingstone's narrative. Alan Dulles, 33rd degree Freemason and Knight Templar, founder of the Council on Foreign Relations, and in-law of the Rockefellers, served with the U.S. Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which became the CIA, a roundtable creation that would eventually become the CIA, emphasis added, and of which he would become head. After World War II, Dulles picked Reinhard Gehlen, the most senior Eastern Front Nazi military intelligence officer, who just before the end of World War II had turned himself over to the U.S. to establish the Gehlen organization to work with the OSS. Now, this guy turned traitor to the Nazis, but he was a Nazi. And, when he saw what was getting ready to go down, he defected and came to the U.S. to establish the Gehlen organization to work within the OSS, later the CIA. Gehlen picked 153 former German Army and SS officers, which the SS was the worst of the worst, which eventually grew to 4,000 undercover agents called V-men. V like a V. In the 1950s, Gehlen rebuilt the German intelligence service and built Egypt's spy and security forces. From this came the Odessa Network, which established and facilitated secret escape routes out of Germany to South America and the Middle East for Nazis. Now, and we were fully in on it. The CIA and all that, the OSS was fully in on helping these people that committed all these atrocities and war crimes to escape. All right. George Herbert Walker, maternal grandfather of President George H.W. Bush and president of Union Banking Corporation, was also involved in these operations. Carla Benyon, Nazis and Bush family history. Government investigated Bush family's financing of Hitler. You see, they finance both sides of things. George H.W. Bush, and of course on that, government investigated Bush family's financing of Hitler, and this is, you can go to http://www.rememberjohn.com/nazi.html/ George H.W. Bush's father, Prescott, was a board member of Union Banking and a senior partner of the investment firm Brown Brothers Harriman, according to Livingstone. Both E.R. Harriman and Prescott Bush were members of Yale University's Skull and Bone Society, which was the dominant American chapter of the International Brotherhood of Death secret societies. Also in the 1950s, and under the auspices of the Freemasons, the CIA and other British, American, Canadian, and UN agencies, the MK Ultra Mind Control, the Ultimate Terror program, was developed at the British Psychological Warfare Unit called the Tavistock Institute. The plan was to use the indoctrination methods of the Ismaili assassins to create mind-controlled terrorists. Livingstone, this is from Livingstone, 2007, 186-89. The following is a mix of the author's research and Livingstone's narrative. Now, this is the following. In 1954, the Bilderbergers were established in a Netherlands hotel by Prince Bernhard. To run post-World War II Europe in conjunction with the UN. The Rothschilds were again behind this. This is according to Griffin, 1993, 120-9. In the 1960s, the Salafi became more formally tied to the Wahhabis, which resulted in the formation of the Muslim World League in 1962 with the encouragement of the CIA. This is according to Lee in 2004. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated and Lyndon B. Johnson entered America into the Vietnam conflict. In 1969, executive orders were established giving sole power to the president in times of national emergency. This goes against the concept outlined by Isaiah 33:22. Now let's take a look at Isaiah 33:22. For Yahweh is our judge. Yahweh is our lawgiver. Yahweh is our king. He will save us. You see, whenever, we're supposed to follow his law and his statutes and judgments, not ours. And by giving the president this power of executive orders, they can create a crisis, and basically he becomes a dictator. By executive order, whatever he decides to put down by executive, no, Congress totally took out of it. And that was the whole purpose of the separation of the three branches of government, so that no one branch could get absolute control. But by giving him that, and of course it had to come from Congress that allowed it, to give him these powers of executive orders. And it says in times of national emergency. This goes against the concept outlined by Isaiah 33:22, where the founding fathers got the idea of the three branches of government to maintain its checks and balances. And this is how they do this stuff, man. And they do it like in the middle of the night. They go in there and they pass something, a resolution or a law or whatever, and and most people are asleep. They have no idea that this has been done until it's used on them. Also in 1969, the emergency banking regulation was set up to centralize control of all money in case of national emergency. And America's money was taken completely off the gold standard. Griffin, 1993, 105, 163, 173, 194-201. And what that does is that gives them the ability to just print money into perpetuity. Because if you don't have to have something to back it up, other than the good faith and trust of the U.S. government, then they can just print and print and print and print money and nothing to back it up. Nothing to give it value. That's why the dollar is getting progressively worth less and less and less and less. That's what inflation really is. If you, the more money you print, the less it's worth. If I had $1 and $1 only, it'd be worth $1. But if I got 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000 of them, they get to where they're worth what $1 would buy when the Federal Reserve Bank was established in 1913. What $1 would buy then versus what $1 will buy now. I'd say it's lost probably about 98% of its value. I mean, it's probably worth 2 cents of what $1 was worth in 1913. And they can take, set up centralized control of all money in case of natural emergency, and that's what they'll do. They'll create a national emergency. They'll centralize all the money and bring out a digital currency. Because they're going to use some kind of all right. And then in 1973, the Trilateral Commission was established between America, Western Europe, and Japan. And it was done by the Zbigniew Brzezinski and the CFR and them. Zbigniew Brzezinski, cabinet and CFR member, outlined a 4-stage plan to accomplish the New World Order in the modern world. Religious universalism, nationalism, Marxism, and the technotronic era. And of course, we can see that we're coming into that technotronic era. But religious universalism coexist. Oh, we all worship the same God. Why can't we just coexist? Universal. Nationalism and then Marxism. And then the technotronic era, or the AI that we see. I mean, this AI is taking over more and more and more of the back room operations and all that stuff. And ultimately their objective is for it to take over the front office stuff too. Tried talking to one of them on the phone. I mean, because that's what you get when you call anybody anymore. You never get a live person anymore, and trying to get to a live person is almost like pulling teeth. Okay, it says, and that was by Kurban, 1980, 220-2. Also in 1973 were the Yom Kippur War, when Egypt and Syria invaded Israel, and the beginning of the oil crisis. According to Livingstone, 2007, 198. In 1975, William Colby, then head of the CIA, testified at a Senate reinvestigation of the JFK assassination that George Bush Sr. and Howard Hunt headed the Kennedy assassination, but said that they weren't really in charge. Yeah. They headed it. Planned it. They were just taking orders from civilians like Allen Dulles, who was the head of the CIA, and the Rockefellers. Colby was then promptly dismissed, and George Bush Sr. was appointed to head the CIA in his place. He was getting rewarded. And that was according to Livingstone, 2007, 236. In 1982, a full-page article appeared in all the major newspapers in America. The Messiah is here. This article stated that Lord Maitreya was now on the earth. He would fulfill all major religions' prophecies of a coming leader. He would be revealed in the entire world at the same time, and he would bring peace to the whole earth. New Age, Antichrist, emphasis added. This was all published through the Lucas Trust, run through an international board of trustees with members from the Round Table, the CFR, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission. In 2009, the world is still waiting for him to be revealed. In 1991, the New World Order, written by Pat Robertson, was published. This book outlined how the Illuminati was committed to bringing about the New World Order and how that process would be the predecessor for the coming of the Antichrist. In other words, this is what we see going on now, them trying to establish this Great Reset and all that stuff, New World Order, is just the setup to bring in the Antichrist. All right, and that was from Herbert, 2006, A4-8. The following brings this discussion up to the present based on Livingstone's narrative. Before the Illuminati could begin its plan for World War III, they would have to end the Cold War between the Soviet Union, the USSR, and America. In the process, they would also need to break up the USSR, leaving America as the only remaining global superpower to be pitted against the Muslim world. Doesn't that sound kind of like what's happening? In 1979, Brzezinski identified Iran, Afghanistan, and the Indian subcontinent as an arc of crisis that posed a grave challenge to the West. This statement was then used as an excuse by the Illuminati to ignite a band of Islamic fundamentalism across Central Asia that could first be used to bankrupt and destroy the Soviet Union, and then to recruit and engage a wave of Islamic fundamentalists to later be used as the specter of terrorism with which to frighten the Western world. We see that happening, all this, especially what's going on in the Middle East, and now, it's spreading into Europe and then over to here. And we're going to start seeing it here too. And it's by design. From this, it's to put fear into people so that when they come out with their grand plan, to do away with the chaos and to bring order and all that, people's going to be on board with it. From this declaration came the following historic results. The Carter administration and the British undermined the Shah of Iran and installed Ayatollah Khomeini. From that point until 1989, Iran became the command center of international terrorism and the war between Iran and Iraq in 1980. After these historic developments, the CIA backed the Mujahideen war in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union, and then that was Osama. That was our first, the CIA recruited Osama bin Laden. He was trained at Harvard, and he was used over there in Afghanistan with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union, and then used the Muslim Brotherhood to recruit and train Muslim freedom fighters to help fight with the Mujahideen. This was really used as a pretext to create future terrorists to be headed by Osama bin Laden and Sheikh Abdullah Azzam as Al-Qaeda in the 1980s. From this came the following: the Gulf War and the assassination of Meir Kanane, the founder of the Jewish Defense League in New York City. In 1990, they're trying to cause this back and forth, you know, you kill one of ours, we kill one of yours kind of thing. In New York City in 1990. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and from 1998 on, blood diamonds from the RUF, the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone, used to fund Al-Qaeda terrorism. And this is being orchestrated by our own people here. The CIA, the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission. I mean, they're the ones that are all implementing this stuff. All right. In 1999, a French Parliament report exposed global money laundering in support of terrorism through the BCCI, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. The BCCI's largest shareholder is a member of the Saudi government, with business ties to the Bush family and the CIA. In 2000, the PNAC, Project for the New American Century, was uncovered. This plan calls for U.S. global domination with a core mission of transforming the military into an imperialistic global force, able to fight and decisively win multiple simultaneous major theater wars. All this culminated with the World Trade Center Pentagon bombings of 9/11/2001. And I said last week, you know, if you can find it, there's video footage of the explosions happening in those buildings, and there were no planes. And it was done by these same people, CIA, Mossad, and others. This then stands as the precursor for the total Islamic terrorist war envisioned by the Illuminati, i.e. World War III of the Pike-Mazzini Plan. Livingstone 2007, 225, 227-8, 242-3, 248-9, 253, 260-1, 267-8, and 281-3. Although there is not much primary source material available in regard to the Illuminati's writings and doctrinal beliefs, since the organization was designed to be kept secret. Consider the following taken from a separate culmination of the author's research: Brooks, 1983, Robertson, 1991, Griffin, 1993, Livingstone, 2007, John Robinson, Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, carried on in the secret meetings of Freemasons, Illuminati, and reading societies. This is in 1791 or 1797. The Abbey Barul, and that was by John Robinson in 1797. The Abbey Barul Memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobianism, 1798. Seth Payson, Proof of the Illuminati, containing an abstract of the most interesting parts of what Dr. Robinson and the Abbey Bruel have published on this subject. The Collateral Proofs and General Observations, 1802, reprint 2003, and Nesta Webster, Secret Societies, 1924. For each doctrine addressed, the relationship to a certain heresy against Christian orthodoxy would be pointed out. In relation to the Father, they believed that Satan, the devil, is the true Father, and the Hebrew God Adonai or Adonai, is the evil one. The following is a quote from Pike's letter in 1889. Yes, Satan is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God. Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. And this is according to Robertson, 1991, 184, I guess Pat Robertson. They also believe that God and the world are one. Payson, and Satan and the world is one. But that's their God. It says, the Illuminati do not believe in the Trinity of the Bible, just Satan as God. They believe in a spirit world and mastering the art of using the surrounding powers of earth and invisible agents for their own purposes. And this is according to Payson, 2003-75. This is Satanism in its truest form. It aligns with the doctrine of pantheism, and fully rejects the orthodox doctrine of the Trinity. Yahushua was this is what they say, Yahushua was the Grand Master of the Order of Illuminati and came to reinstate mankind to the original. Now they're saying Jesus was the Grand Master of the Order of Illuminati and came to reinstate mankind to the original liberty, equality. But he certainly was not God. He was a good teacher, special man, founder of their secret order, and the one to bring humanity back into balance, equality with Satan or with Lucifer. You shall be as gods from the Garden of Eden. Again, this is secular humanism and Satanism blended together, and rejects the orthodox doctrine of the deity of Yahushua HaMashiach. In relation to humanity, and according to the origin of Masonry, they believe that humanity originally was a rough stone in a primitive state, savage but free, then became a split stone, representing its fallen nature when divided according to state, government, or religion. And finally, and this is Gnosticism too, and finally is to be free again, which was made possible by Yahushua coming to reinstate mankind back to the original state, and which only happens once an individual is illumined through their order, through the Masons, through the Illuminati, through the secret societies. You got to get illuminated through them. Payson, 2003, 79-80. They also believe that this is a mystery, secret that Jesus only revealed to a few, and consequently, down through the ages, continues only be revealed to a few, the illuminated ones of the order. Every citizen is sovereign. We shall be as gods. Religions are the invention of ambitious men. All authority must be destroyed, and democracies are not better or more consonant with nature than any other government. So, according to them, a democratic republic like the United States isn't any better than any other form of government. So, down with it. According to Payson, 2003, 81-2. This becomes a modern form of Gnosticism, with the Illuminati being the keepers of the secret knowledge, and rejects the orthodox doctrine of the need for atonement, salvation of humanity by grace through faith. Gnosticism, and stuff like the reincarnation, all that kind of gobbledygook. And it's always, we have the secret knowledge. We know the secret name. We know the secret doctrine. Just come join us and we'll reveal this to you. That's where this is all out in the open and can be learned and understood by anybody if they receive the Ruach HaKodesh and they pray for it. All right. In relation to eternal life, they believe in death as the everlasting sleep of Voltaire. There's the humanism. Payson 2351. Note on Borrell's Memoirs, Volume 1, Chapter 18. This again reinforces a strong belief in secular humanism and rejects the doctrine of the resurrection of the body. And the same thing with these, reincarnation. I mean, it says, these doctrinal statements serve to underscore that Illuminism drew from many other previous cults, and I've said this over and over again, that this stuff all comes from one place, and you'll see that in this here. Buddhism, Kabbalism, Gnosticism, Egyptian occult, the Sufis of Islam, the Cathars, modern witchcraft, Wicca, modern secular humanism, Rosicrucianism, and Freemasonry. However, the root of all this is satanic. Started in the Garden of Eden and then was propagated to the world through Nimrod and Semiramis and their Babylonian mysteries cult, false religion at the time of the Tower of Babel. This order was born right after the French Enlightenment and in the middle of the German rationalism period. At this time of rationalism, every aspect of the doctrines from the traditional church came under close scrutiny of man's rational thinking. The order of the Illuminati appealed to humanity's sinful nature at all its levels to be like the gods, to be part of something that ultimately would be for the common good, the lust for power and mystery, and to be illumined, enlightened, or set free. The overall danger of the Illuminati is the seduction and deceitfulness used at its lower levels to basically brainwash honest, good-intentioned, church-going men against the traditional church and to draw them into the very lie issued to humanity from Satan himself. Ye shall be gods. Revelation chapter 2, or Genesis chapter 2. The order appears to be a good, and this is the way it appears, to be a good humanitarian fraternal organization on the outside, yet at its core is truly an insidiously evil satanic cult with a goal of world domination by the select few. The other major danger of this cult is that it maintains a very detailed, specific plan to obtain this goal in all areas of human endeavor: religion, politics, education, banking, business, press, media, sociology, and war. World War I, World War II, World War III, Islamic terrorism, which is backed in the spiritual realm by Satan himself and in the physical realm by all the men with earthly power, money barons. And I've said that they're the ones that are really behind everything that these people that that they select up here, they're not elected, they're selected presidents or whatever. They are just doing what they are told by the money barons. The author believes that this cult is the vehicle that Satan will use to bring about the new world order in preparation for the Antichrist to rule in the last days, end times. This is by Herbert, 2006A 9-15. This then lays the groundwork for the other cults and heresies that began in the 19th century. And of course that's the end of it, but there you have it. I mean, in a kind of a synopsis, of course you can go get these books by Robertson and Livingstone and others, and you can get a whole lot more detail on it and all. But that's kind of a synoptic version of what's been going on since this Illuminati began. And of course it was funded and Weishaupt was encouraged to do it by the Rothschilds. I think it was Mayor Ansel Rothschild is the one that got him to do it. Well, these people, and I told you who they're from. They acknowledge that they're Ashkenazis, so they're not true Jews. They're not from the tribe of Judah. And in fact, let me look in here in the old strongest here right quick, and let's just see the word Jew. H-I-J-K. It started basically in the book of Esther, is where they were, and it was the Persians that started calling them Jews. And of course in Jeremiah, and it was because they were the tribe of Judah that was, the main tribe that was in captivity over in Babylon and then in Medo-Persia. They and the Benjamites and Levites was with them, but that was the house of Judah. So they began to call them Jews. And so by the time of Christ, it was pretty common to call them Jews. But anyway, you can see that, and I've tried to really do, and of course I need to dig a little bit deeper, but trying to get the true origins of the Rothschilds, and it tells you in here that let's see, that the first member of the family who was known to use the name Rothschild was Isaac Elkanan Rothschild, and it says the name is derived from the German zum Rothenschild, with the old spelling, the meaning at the red shield. It means red shield. And if you look, there's their coat of arms there with an eagle or griffin, or not a griffin, but phoenix or whatever. They always try to make them look like an eagle, but if you notice on the back of the head, there's a little notch sticking up back there. Well, eagles don't have a notch on the back of their head. Their head's bald back there, smooth. But it's just like the U.S. dollar. Or the eagle that they use here. There's a lot of depictions of it that's got that little notch thing back there. It's really a phoenix. It's not an eagle, but they just want people to think it is. And it's the red shield. And but it doesn't really give you anything beyond here back, other than, like I said, when you go in there and it talks about them, because they're trying to claim that they're Jews from Judah, just like I read that statement by that guy over there, Niles Weekly Register, volume 49, that the wonders of the and we see the descendants of Judah, but they're not the descendants of Judah. It's a lie, but they want people to believe that they are. And I believe that they have, at some point in the past, they assumed the identities, and they learned how, because the Jews, the true Jews, I think it's through the maternal side of the family that they determine who you really are, who you descended from. But there's a it's the, what's the word I'm trying to do, there's a method to it. It ain't just, well, her name's such and such. Well, anybody could just say that They know there's some way that they are able to determine truly, because they have all the names. They have all the names of all the people born. Going back, you look at the Bible. How accurate, how it accurately keeps track. That's why you got all the, they call them the begots. So and so begot so and so and begot so and so. Well, that's so that they could keep track of who really was a Hebrew and who wasn't. But if you could have tortured somebody and gotten that information at some point, then you could, and not only that, but Satan himself could reveal it to him, if he was allowed to. And then take on the identity of some people, even if you're not, in order to deceive the true Jewish people into aligning with them. But, I just wanted to kind of bring that stuff out and show it to you so that, because there's a lot of people that really are just totally ignorant about this stuff. And people perish for lack of knowledge. Of course, I guess the question is what can you do about it? Well, there's not really anything you can do about it. They done gotten too much power and too much control. And of course, scriptures tells us what's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's for a reason. And of course, I've been reading the book of 2nd Esdras, which is an apocryphal book. And it's, it kind of, if you can take it as being somewhat inspired or whatever, that and Esdras is Ezra. And because it's also, he had a amanuensis that was his protege, his student, or his disciple, whatever you want to call him, named Baruch, that wrote, the book of Ezra and 1st and 2nd Esdras. And then he also wrote his own book called Baruch. But it says in there, because Ezra's questioning God about why, because he was in captivity over in Babylon. And he was questioning why, these heathen non-believers, were thriving and, prosperous, and your people are being subjugated to them. Why? And of course, well, for one, their sin caused them to be subjugated to them, but, not keeping the Sabbath of the land and all. And so the 70 years that they did not keep the Sabbaths of the land, which was it was a long period of time, because there's one Sabbath of the land every 7 years. So, if it's 1 year, 7 times 7, 490 years that they didn't keep the Sabbath of the land. And so he basically said, okay, the land is going to enjoy its Sabbaths, its rest, for 70 years to make up for it. And so then they went back into the land. Well, Ezra's like, why not just have everybody that's going to be born all at once and get this over with? Why are you dragging it out, making it go all this way? He said, well, for one, the earth can't hold all these people. Even though the earth is big and it can hold a lot of people, it can't hold 30, 40, 50, 60 billion people, or however many's been born since Adam. It just couldn't sustain all them people. And so, he says, because, and then separate your righteous out. And he told him, he says, basically, this is so that the righteous, the true sons of Elohim can be discovered throughout all this period of time, because at the very, when it's all said and done, most of them people are going to perish. Majority of them. And then the ones that are left, it'll be a lot of people, but out of the 100 billion or whatever that's been, been born since the beginning, maybe more like 1 billion of them that actually get eternal life. And he was just saying it's so that that people can have their opportunity to come to the truth, and and if they reject it, then whenever they're raised up at the final judgment, and they know the truth, because there's a lot of people that are deceived, and a lot of people that just never heard the truth. A lot of the Gentiles, and just a lot of people in general. I mean, that even among the Hebrew people that have been deceived, never heard the truth. That'll be given their opportunity to hear it, but a lot of them are going to still have that same spirit that you see in people now. They don't want to be ruled over by Elohim. They don't. They want to do whatever they want to do. And that nature is in them, and the best thing that Elohim can do is to put them out of their misery. If you don't want to serve him, then you're not serving anybody else. Because it's going to come to its final conclusion. I mean, he says, I am Yahuwah and there is none else. And so, and it's to see, it's to the sheep and the goats. Are going to be separated. And so, and these people, that are, you got, it's just a carnal mind. Yeah, sure it is, man. No, there's some, these people going back, way back then to, as far back as it goes, this conspiracy goes back. There's no way that any human could plan all this out. I mean, it took a far greater intelligence and patience to plan all this out. And of course that's Hasatan, Satan, and so, and it's to see, and Elohim allows it to see which side you're going to stand on. I mean, when it really comes down to it, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty where the rubber meets the road, what side are you going to be on? It's a test, and this is the great testing's coming. And we can see it, unfolding right in front of our eyes. And I mean, all these things that they planned, like Mazzini and Pike, these wars and the things that lead up to it. It's not just a matter of planning a war or whatever. I mean, but you got to plan all of the things that will lead up to that. Because a lot of times, yeah, I guess wars can get started kind of easy, but a lot of times people, some people will go out of their way to keep from having a war, people that have fought wars. A lot of times, generals and people like that seen a lot of death and destruction and carnage and all that stuff, they don't want to see it. There's a lot of them that they'll be the first ones to tell you, let's do whatever we can in the way of peace to keep from having war. But then you got these ones in the background back there that never had to go fight no war, never sent any of their children to any wars. They have no problems, sending your kids to war. They have no problem, killing millions and tens of millions of people. Or in the case of World War II, I guess it's probably 100 million people or more that died during World War II. They could care less. And it's because they follow their father, the devil, Satan, and he wants to destroy us all. I mean, he wants to destroy mankind, and I mean, and he's going to do everything he can to accomplish that, and using these willful dupes, willful idiots, because they are blinded and they cannot see the truth of it. He's convinced them that he is the enlightened one. He is the one. Oh man, that other God, he wants to, make you a slave and keep you ignorant and stupid, and you just do what he tells you and nothing else. I'm gonna let you do whatever you want, man. You come on my side and you can do whatever makes you, like Aleister Crowley said, the whole of the law is do as you will. And that's their philosophy and their belief. No restraints. No limitations. And of course it leads to what you see happening. I mean, where life has no meaning. I mean, they'll be on you like a duck on a June bug for you if you hurt an animal, but you can kill somebody and it happens. I mean, human life has no value to them. None. Only their own. But even at that, if one of their own people, their own relatives or whatever, I mean, doesn't, toe the line and go along with the program or talks, something they shouldn't be talking, they don't have no problem killing them either. Because human life has no meaning. And it's a shame, but it is. All these things are to discover the true followers and believers, the ones who will become sons of God. Not become gods, but become sons of God. And maybe at some point in eternity or whatever, I don't know what we'll become. Over time. I mean, but I know that it talks about us, every man having his own dwelling and sitting under his, fruit trees and, I mean, it sounds good to me. I mean, to live a peaceful and agrarian kind of life. I think that a lot of the things that go on that he allows to happen, all this explosion of technology and stuff, is to show people that the really the downside of it all. Yeah, I mean it can have benefits, but it always leads to the worst. And it destroys your, if you depend on stuff like this phone and everything for everything you do, and it's more and more going to be more and more. People are going to be more and more dependent on it, and you're dependent on technology, and you lose the ability to function on the land and to live off the land and off of the bounty of the earth. Then you're going to be subjected to just what we're seeing. Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. Doug has been doing these little daily videos on there showing this stuff that they're doing. And now, and I've kind of noticed it too. I mean, I'm still seeing some bugs and stuff, insects and stuff, but like there's this one woman he had, he was showing her where they were interviewing her. It might have been on a news channel or something, but she was from England, and she was talking about she had all these lush gardens around her house and stuff. And she said normally this time last year, they was butterflies. She has butterfly bushes and stuff. They attract butterflies, and she said it would have been just loaded with butterflies and hummingbirds and honeybees and bumblebees and dragonflies and all this kind of stuff. She said in this one particular bush she had there, I forgot what she called it, but normally these butterfly caterpillars or moth caterpillars of some kind would get on there and eat that bush up. She said there was a few places that had bites in it, and that was it. She said she hadn't seen any butterflies, any bumblebees, any carpenter bees, any of the bumblebees, dragonflies. Well, he pulled up a document that was from the military where they are going around at night with aerial tankers and they're dispersing pesticides out. They said it's especially around urban areas, and they're claiming that it is to control mosquitoes. But the thing is that pesticides are non-discriminatory. I mean, they may have some insecticides that are insect specific, but I really don't know of any that are absolutely specific. They are non-specific and they kill anything and everything. So if you're spraying this stuff at night, when people are supposedly in bed or whatever, and you're dispersing all of this pesticide everywhere, not only are you killing mosquitoes, and they was talking about too that the lightning bugs, which I see a lot of them around here, but we're not in a rural area or an urban area. We're out in a rural area that's sparsely populated. So I still see, pretty good bit of lightning bugs and stuff, but I can tell you this, I haven't seen hardly any butterflies. I don't see hardly any honeybees, bumblebees. Even up there at the shop up there, I was, having issues with carpenter bees. I think I seen 2 or 3 of them in early June, late May, early June, when they start coming around looking for somewhere to bore a hole. And all of a sudden, I didn't see them anymore. And normally, if they boring somewhere, you'll see a little pile of sawdust there, where they boring their holes at. I haven't seen it. So something's killing them. And I'll tell you something else: birds. I mean, from where I'm at, I hear a bird here and there, but you would think in a rural area like this here, this rural and sparsely populated, that there would be birds all over the place, and they're not. I mean, I see one every now and again, and it's, it seems like the poor fellow's desperate. I mean, it's calling and calling and calling and calling, and nothing's answering him. So, and in this dimming, they are going full, steam ahead with this dimming, to dim out the sun and all that stuff. And one of the other things he's bringing up was about these 5G, the microwaves and all that stuff, the HARP systems bombarding us with this 5G. I mean, there's times whenever, and I'm just going off of memory from when I was growing up, that the sun, it'd be hot and all, I even seen it get up in the, where I grew up, 104, 105 degrees. But it didn't feel like it was almost like an acid burning your skin. It never felt like that. Oh yeah, you could get sunburned and stuff, if you got out it too long or whatever. But we kind of like worked our way into it. We started, at early spring, going out in the sun, and as we were out in it every day. And so by the time it really got hot, it didn't bother us. But now, there's times when I'm out there, man, it literally feels like something's burning my skin up. And I know it's microwaves. I know it is. And that's what's happening to the birds. They get too close to these towers and stuff where they're, pumping that microwave energy out, these 5G towers. And it's real high frequency microwaves. And I've heard tell, I haven't seen it with my own eyes or nothing, but I have to believe that it's true. That these, birds that just burst into flames. And They're, and the thing is that they're, birds and soft, small mammals and birds and insects and stuff are more susceptible to this microwave energy than we are. And it's doing a lot of harm to us too. I mean, it's really doing a lot of harm on the cellular level. It's where a lot of this, weird cancers and other kind of metabolic problems, with your thyroid and all this different kinds of different glands that are being affected by it, that are causing people to have stuff like, that 60, 70 years ago you never heard of. And it seems like that starting with the advent of telegraphy was when people began to notice cancer. So it's not just microwaves and stuff. I mean, it's electricity, human generated electricity, period, that is affecting people. I mean, and we're surrounded by it in our houses. I mean, it's all around us. And even though the electricity that are in our houses and stuff is as far as the power or electricity is low frequency, we don't really know what the long-term effects of that stuff is on our physiology at the cellular level. And of course the doctors and the medical profession are told to keep their mouth shut. And when anybody does come out and like a whistleblower or something like that, they will destroy them in the media and all. I mean, people like Peter McCullough and Robert Malone and different ones. I mean, that they have tried to just absolutely destroy. And so, I know it's kind of down bummer stuff, but it's the truth, and we need to do whatever we can to find out how we can mitigate it, at least mitigate it and minimize the effects of this stuff on us. And then, they're man, I mean, the chicken houses and stuff and animals and all, herd animals and all that are being destroyed and killed, burnt up with fires. All these food production facilities, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of them since before 9/11 or the pandemic that have been destroyed. And I'm just as sure as I'm sitting here, I know they're using these directed energy weapons to set these facilities on fire. I mean, there's just one in Texas, the largest egg producing facility in the world. Or in the United States at least. I don't know about the world, but in the United States it was the largest egg producing farm in the United States, and their production facility burnt up. And they lost millions of chickens. And it's by design. These very people, same thing with Henry Kissinger said, control the food, control the people. And he was Illuminati. He was on the Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission. I mean, he was in all of that stuff. So there you have it. And I reckon I'm gonna end it there. And I probably, which they probably just, I probably ain't no threat to them, so they probably ain't gonna come after me. But eventually they will. I mean, I'm putting myself out there. That they know where I stand, and so when the time comes, I'm sure they'll come after me and eliminate me or whatever. But that's okay, because it's appointed unto all men to die, and thereafter the judgment. I mean, I'm going to die sooner or later anyway. But I would rather die in Christ than to die serving their God. And so with that, I love you folks. I thank you for watching the videos. I thank you for the new subscribers, because it does help to get these things out. I mean, I could care less about monetization. I trust in our Father to take care of my needs, not YouTube. But I just enjoy doing these, and I like bringing truth and information that I think that people need to know. You need to understand why these things are going on, Why, and you can't trust any of these people in the political system. They're all puppets. They're all selected to further their agenda. And they're on board with it. If they're not on board with it, then they don't get selected. And if one happens to slip in and wants to buck on them, or try to start bringing, like Kennedy or somebody like that, or, Abraham Lincoln, they kill you. That's just the way they do. And it's the way they've always done, and the way they're going to continue to do until the Messiah comes. And let's pray for that. Let's pray for his soon appearing and put down this wickedness. Because it's not our place. Vengeance is mine, saith Yahweh. I will repay. It's his vengeance, his right. And so, with that, I love you. I hope you'll be, blessed. Remember what I always say: be good Bereans. You study your scriptures. 2 Timothy 2:15. Stay in your scriptures. Stay in prayer, and love one another. And with that, I'm going to call it a day, and I'll see you again on the next Shabbat, if Yahweh is willing.